So let's do a quick run through of the Deep Learning Basics tutorial. So this is our platform, projectkiwi.org, and we're going to run through going from nothing to being able to train a machine learning model on some of our data and apply it fairly quickly. So what we're going to do is the first thing you need to sign in. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign in or create an account. I recommend using the Google Auth. It's very convenient, so I'm just going to pick this account. I've got a fresh project here. Of course, you can go ahead and create a new one. That's fine. I'm going to rename my project. Wait for my keyboard to wake up. I'm just going to call it a demo. Now, the next thing we need is data. So let's go ahead and open up the written version of this tutorial, which is here, and that's going to step you through the whole process of getting some data, getting set up, basically everything we're going to do here. So why don't we go ahead and use this data here, which I captured on a consumer drone at some point over the summer, and this will serve just fine for what we want to use it for. So to add data to our project, I'm going to go to the left hand here and I'm going to click add data. So at the moment we support geotagged images and raster imagery, so that's something like a GeoTIFF, for example. So I'm going to go ahead, choose that data. I'm going to give it a name. This is actually from the Sammamish River. It looks like I've done it before. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to upload it. What's going to happen is a few things are going to happen on the back end. The data is essentially going to be rearranged in a format that makes it faster to serve to users. That's called a cloud optimized GeoTIFF. Alright, so it looks like our data is live now. We can go take a look at it. So having a look at what we've got here, it seems like we've got some river here. We've got honestly a fantastic cycle path. That's one of my favorites. And then some parking infrastructure here. And for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to look at running object detection on something that we have quite a lot of. And that's going to be these parking barriers here. So to go through that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Manage My Project. I'm going to go over here, create a labeling task. I'm going to select our data. Select a tile size for labeling. So we're going to label 30 meters by 30 meters at a time. And I could go ahead and label all the data, but it could be kind of boring. So let's just select a polygon of interest. I'm going to use this tool here to select this area. And what you can see is, like, we're going to label this task, and then this task, and then this task, and this task. The order is actually randomized, so it won't be in that order at all. Gonna add queue. So to get started labeling, I'm gonna open that up. So there's nothing of interest here, so I'm gonna click certify. That means everything inside that area is labeled. I'm gonna complete the task to get a new task. This area also good. And in this area, clearly we have some parking barriers. So to label those, alright, so let's go over to our class list here. It seems like we just have a default label type, so let's add a new one. You can select a color here. I quite like using yellow, so let's use yellow. I'm going to call it parking barriers. I'm going to go select it. Now what we could do is we could click this annotation tool, draw a box. In this tutorial, so we do support polygons and bounding boxes. In this tutorial, we're just going to use bounding boxes to begin with, but the switch is fairly easy. So I've drawn a box around that one, but the shortcut, which is going to speed things up a little bit for us, is you can hit D, draw the box, and then you could either complete it by hitting enter, or, as I do it again, you can hit D to complete the box you're on, and then start drawing a new one. So I've labeled a few there, and I'm just going to finish those up. Let's go ahead and label, go through a few more labeling tasks. So I'm just going through, hitting D, labeling bounding boxes around these parking barriers. Now an observation I'm going to make here is that these bounding boxes you see here actually look fairly similar to the demarcations between the parking spaces over here. And I would expect the machine learning model is probably going to be a little bit confused between these two. So once again, I'm going to hit certify and complete to finish off that task. And let's do one more. Now, of course, I could go through and just label these by hand. That would probably be faster than involving machine learning. But maybe we want to use the machine learning model to apply to other parking areas. Or maybe I'm feeling really lazy, or I'm really into machine learning, for example. So, but let's go ahead and involve machine learning. Okay, let's say I'm done drawing boxes for the moment. To get started on the machine learning, the tutorial will take you through this. However, I'm going to open up this Colab notebook. I'm going to save a copy. So to connect the platform to the Python package, we need a couple of details. The first thing we need, and I would encourage you to protect yours, I'll probably swap out my API key after this. The first thing you need is an API key that essentially gives you permission to access the data. You need a project ID, which will point you to this collection of data and annotations, that kind of thing. Imagery ID is the specific data that we're labeling, and then the QID is the labeling tasks that we're going through. So we're going to go ahead and copy all those. We're going to paste those into the notebook and just hit run all, and that'll go through. And what it'll do is it'll install the Python package. It'll copy it'll put the credentials in. It'll set up either a instance segmentation model that we have defined or an object detection model. So that's the choice between using polygons or simplifying them to bounding boxes. See that we're training on GPU here, and what will happen is we'll run through and do training. So we've done the training, so now we have a model, and we've saved the model here. And what we'll do is we'll use that model to run predictions over our data. And the way we tie it all together is you come back here and we can see that these ones here have been annotated by us, but the rest have been predicted. And so this is already fairly good performance. Once again, we can actually see that that confusion there between the parking barriers and the demarcations. But what we can do is we can use the prediction filters over on the right hand side, and I think they should be somewhere about here. Yeah. So this one is the confidence filter, and what happens when I move that up and down is I can essentially say, hey, I want a certain level of confidence from the machine learning model before I'm going to take these predictions to be accurate. So once we're happy with those, what we can do is, rather than labeling them ourselves, we can simply hit certify, and what that'll do is that'll convert all of the predictions inside the current task into annotations. And then we can complete that task and move on. Once again, by hitting certify all, I'm converting all the predictions inside the current task to annotations, which we can then use for training. So what I'll do here is I'll go back to my notebook and I'll simply hit run all again. And what that'll do is that'll iterate on the model we trained previously. And what I'm doing is I'm consistently improving the model. So the question is really, well, what do we do with this now? Yes, we could keep iterating, but maybe these predictions are good enough. Okay, so we're here in the annotations tab, and what we can see here is the collection of predictions and annotations for our project. And if we want to do something with these, let's say we want to count them, or we want to do something with them. Well, the count is fairly easy. We can see that there's 79 barriers in the area of interest. We can zoom in on each of those and say and have a look at them, inspect them individually. It's worth noting that we can easily access these within our Python API and do some work on them there. One of the things we can do is we can select all of them or a selection of them and download that data as a GeoTIFF. And then what we can do with that is we can load it into your ArcGIS or your QGIS software like I've done here, and you can take a look at the centroids or the annotations, and you can see all that data there. And then you can do whatever you like with them in your standard GIS software.